to another edition of the Energy Podcast. Ryan Ray alongside the one, the only Dr. Energy herself. Dr. Energy, I don't know if you are loyal to all New York football teams, but if you are, your New York Guardians are terrible. So, apologies.
Luckily, I am not.
You're not? Okay.
I am not loyal. I'm a Giants fan. I'm a Celtics fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nominal Phillies fan. But I will root for the Yankees.
That's terrible. You're okay till then.
Tisk.
Yeah. That's about it. I mean, I will root for the Yankees, but, I guess I really support the Phillies.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the XFL, except for, I just thought about this weekend because the New York team is just so bad. They're so bad. I didn't know if you had...
Well, it depends who's playing on it. I haven't been following it nearly enough, although the NBA All-Star Game was so bad that we almost put it on.
Yeah.
We're flipping back to it.
I'm a lifelong diehard Houston Roughnecks fan.
Oh, well, naturally. I mean, what a great team name.
Right. So my son...
hey... Maybe they want to sponsor our podcast.
They should.
I will become a Houston Roughnecks fan in that case. I will wear a Houston Roughnecks hat on every single show.
Exactly. So they have a team here in Dallas called the Renegades. And I was like, okay, they're closer. But you know what? With all the anti-fracking stuff going on, I've got to ride or die with the Roughnecks. And so I am going with the Roughnecks. Yeah, we need to get them to sponsor this podcast because I'm sure this is their target demographic, Only gas workers that want to hear about the coronavirus. So
exactly.
Speaking of the coronavirus, this is the topic we talked about last week. I did talk to Bush China. They were going to try to get us a quote, but they have not as of this recording. So hopefully next week they were going to. I know they had some things going on, and they didn't promise it. That was their goal. So.
Coronavirus things.
Yeah, probably so.
It's a wee bit busy there.
Yeah, probably so. Hey, I will tell you this cool story here. A few weeks ago, I was talking with them about some of the business stuff, and they said, hey, we're kind of putting it on hold because of coronavirus, And I said, well, is there anything I can do? They said, yeah, we're trying to find some masks. So I put a post on LinkedIn, and because of that post, they were able to connect with people, and they're sending 2 million masks to China now. So,
wow.
Yeah, they put a big press release out and all that stuff, and so...
So I learned something interesting from the internet, because the internet is where you learn all interesting things. Everything interesting you learn on the internet. I learned that the whole point of wearing a mask is so you don't infect yourself. It has nothing to do with keeping you from sneezing on someone else. The whole point is so you don't put your fingers in your mouth, because it's putting your hands in your mouth is the number one way to infect yourself with anything, apparently. So that's the point of wearing the mask, is not to keep you from breathing on another person, but to keep you from touching germs and then touching your mouth. So
the more you know.
Yeah.
And it's a fact because it was on the internet, so we know.
It was on the internet, and someone who said they were a doctor wrote this, so yeah.
Don't at Ellen about this. It's a fact, okay? It's an undisputed fact.
Protect yourself from coronavirus. Don't suck your thumb.
Okay. Speaking of coronavirus, from the South China Morning Post, I enjoy reading their work. Coronavirus, China urged to delay purchase elements of U.S. trade deal as outbreak rocks economy. Now, I'm going to read this little snippet here, and then I've got to ask you if you saw the other headline from Bloomberg this weekend. Beijing should request a delay in the purchase agreement element of its Phase 1 trade deal with the United States, senior Chinese economists have said, due to the strain on its economy caused by the novel coronavirus outbreak. Now, so we talked about this last week, kind of wondered if this would happen, but did you see the article, and I should have sent this to you before the show, I didn't think about it till now, but from Bloomberg about... the Chinese are actually going to increase their oil purchases.
So, I said this. I don't remember where I said it. I may have written it in an investing.com piece, which I'm going to go back and find. But I said this when it started. I said Chinese oil demand. They may stop. They may not be using as much product. They might not be burning as much gasoline, as much jet fuel. But their purchases of crude oil may not go down, because if crude oil goes down, they're going to be ooh, let's buy it for our storage facilities and stick it in there for later, because they like, remember who was it who came on the show with a guest on the show who's like, China has this very like long term view of everything. So if you're operating with a long term view, you're gonna be like, yeah, let me take advantage of that deal now. Which is why I was saying, I think I may have said that. I'm going to find that piece because I said that. I said, don't necessarily expect them to buy less oil because if the price drops, they're going to want to keep buying because it goes into storage. The only way that they would stop buying is if their economy gets hit so much that they're running out of like foreign currency. Then you'd expect them to prioritize like food purchases and stuff from the US than purchase of oil in dollars. Or they could like try to just buy a heck of a lot more from Iran because Iran will accept yuan. But I don't think Iran can really send them much more than they are.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. You mentioned Iran. Did you see the story about the guys from Dallas got arrested for trying to sell Iranian oil to China?
I didn't know that's why they were arrested. I just saw that they were arrested for violating sanctions. It was because they were trying to sell Iranian oil to China.
Yes.
Yes. Boy.
Yes. They were arrested. They never even did it, but they were arrested for talking about it and conspiring. Do you know how much the potential upside on selling Iranian oil to China is, according to the prosecutors?
Oh, do you say how much?
$28 million per month profit.
Dollars.
$28 million.
Because I was gonna be like 28 million reals per month is kind of worthless.
$28 million per month profit is what the prosecutors are alleging them to have made. And if you want to read some communist propaganda, it is on my I tweeted it out from the Justice Department because the Justice Department was like they went after them, and as you know, I'm not a big sanctions guy, so I think this is all kind of terrible. But let's see here. It says the complaint alleges that defendants Nicholas Hoven, all the names, arranged to purchase oil and sell to a refinery in China, represented by defendant something Wang, a.k.a. Bill Wang. So that was his name, Bill Wang. And then let's see here. It says, there was, this is the prosecutor, with the goal of illegally enriching themselves. The defendants conspired for over 8 months to devise a scheme to violate U.S. sanctions imposed on Iran, particularly the ban of foreign oil sales, said this communist associate attorney general. The sale of oil is the lifeblood of the Iranian economy. At the same time, the United States was increasing sanctions in order to pressure Iran to stop its malign activities. These defendants put greed ahead of country. I commend the efforts of agents and prosecutors who investigated and uncovered this brazen evasion of U.S. law. Oh, God.
I want to know what their plan was. They're hanging out in Dallas and they're just like, oh, yeah, let's come up with a plan to sell Iranian oil to China. Like, what was their plan?
So
I'm dying to know.
What do you think the penalty for this is?
Are they even facing jail? I mean, I assume they're not arrested unless there's jail time involved.
25 years.
25 years?
And a fine of $1.25 million.
You know, that like drug dealers get less now, or just don't get prosecuted.
They didn't even do anything. Like they didn't actually.
They were just talking about it.
Yeah, they were trying to.
So, like, if we just talk about it, like, I'm like, hey, Ryan, if you wanted to help China buy Iranian oil, like, how would you do it? If we just like start talking about it together, then can we?
I don't know. They have
trouble?
They put in here that they were putting a shell company. They were putting into place all the things it would take, but I don't think they actually ever did anything. Of course, of this, and it's like with the goal of illegally enriching themselves. And so I just thought about this. So first off, let's just say that these poor guys go to jail for 25 years, and then Trump signs a deal with Iran next May. Are we gonna let them out of jail? Like, seriously, this sentence is longer than the sanctions will be imposed. I will bet every dollar I have on that.
What if, like, the entire Islamic Republic of Iran falls, and he'd be like, there is no longer a country.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, it's like, okay, so think about it. So when the Russian Revolution happened, okay, people had bought bonds from Tsarist Russia. Mm-hmm. Like, there were imperial Russian bonds, and then there was a revolution, and then Imperial Russia no longer existed, and they were the United Socialist Republics, and so like they were like, we're not paying those bonds, and so the people, it was a worthless bond because the country no longer existed. So if the country they no longer exists, maybe they could like appeal their sentence.
And doesn't
I don't know if
China
you can get it
but doesn't
vacated.
China get waivers to buy Iranian oil already?
No, all the waivers were ended
Okay.
for buying.
Okay.
They just
Well, China is buying
Sanction
the
them.
oil from Iran.
oh yeah. Oh, everybody knows that.
And so
But
these poor guys
but-
are illegally enriching themselves, and so therefore,
yeah. Easy. Yeah.
gosh.
I mean, I mean, so far, I think the only country that really has a waiver to buy stuff from Iran right now is Iraq has that waiver to buy electricity and natural gas. That is,
So if China gets a
getting
waiver
extended.
back, does that mean that these guys get out of jail? Like, I don't even. I just
look, when
it's-
it comes to the common man versus the feds,
Mhm.
the common man will lose.
Uh,
If you're not the common man, if you're like, in the government or you're a billionaire, then you can get off.
So, federal district
guys.
attorney, I think you are a terrible human being. Just want to get that off the record. So, back to coronavirus because that's what got us
Yes.
derailed on this. So it looks like there is
That was a good
talk.
story.
Oh, yeah, it's a terribly sad story because listen, obviously, if they knew the risk what they're getting into, but it's
I feel like it's like like the Don't Do Drugs campaign. Don't violate sanctions.
until the san-
kids
yeah,
everywhere
yeah,
listening to this, don't violate the U.S. sanctions on Iran.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Just
So-
don't do it.
Yeah. So yeah. Now I'm not. Listen, I am not actively or inactively trying to buy or sell anything from Iran. Just to be clear. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not talking about it unless it's in the context of someone who else has violated the law. So that's just get that on the record now. But will they pull back on this, Ellen? On the
This is a big deal. Well,
It is
first
a
of
big
all,
deal.
can they afford to not buy soybeans? Like they've committed to buying all these soybeans. Like, can they afford to delay this purchase? Like, I can understand you can afford to be like, okay, so we're not going to like buy your natural gas right now, but can you afford to delay your purchase of necessary agricultural products?
Right.
That I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, and then let's just kind of play it out here. If they commit to buy it, and you have farmers who are farming, I guess our government would just subsidize their unused soybeans.
It's not that. I mean, I know you can like store them, but like not that long. Although, if you're Mike Bloomberg, you just think farming's not that hard. You just put it in the ground, you water it, it grows, you pick it. Even a robot could do that.
Mike Bloomberg, did you see the video on Twitter where someone's
Yes,
like,
I did.
Mike, say stop and frisk? He goes, stop and frisk. They snapped the picture.
Oh no, I didn't see that. Oh, okay, that I gotta look up.
There's some guys like, say stop and frisk. He's like, stop and frisk. And they snap.
No, I gotta see that. No, I did see the video of him basically saying that farming is an idiot's profession. Okay, so when I was a senior in high school, we had to take science, and I took AP Environmental Science, which was actually really cool and really interesting, and we got to learn all about like what happens to your sewage after you flush the toilet, and how your water is treated, and all sorts of interesting things like that. But one of the things we did learn a lot about is agriculture and how to grow things and how to best grow things and how to not grow things in a good way. Like, it's really complicated.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is a serious, important, not just important, but like really complicated business that requires a lot of knowledge and thought and analysis and all sorts of stuff. So like,
If it's so
Don't diss
easy,
it.
then why did Bloomberg make a career on selling data and information about the trade of agriculture products?
yeah, exactly. Like he has like a lot of people who do a lot of really good reporting on agriculture commodities. Like, think about how they feel.
Yeah, it's like, well, then why do we need to pay for your
Why-
stupid subscription if it's so
Yeah.
easy? So
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway, yeah, don't diss the farmers, man. That's like a
he not-
surefire way to lose an election.
oh, I know why he did it. He didn't have to go to the corn people for the caucus, so he's post corn people, so he feels like he
No,
can just.
he said this. He said this years ago
No.
at a conference in Oxford,
okay,
and
old
people
quote.
are now digging up all this stuff. And so this video has been going around of him basically saying like, being an IT person requires so much more, like, and a coder requires so much more thought analysis. That tells me, first of all, he has no idea what coding is. Like, basic coding is like whatever. Like that video is just it's horrible for her. It's a horrible look. Like, I mean, these are also like farmers also invest in, like they also like do buy and sell commodities that they also produce. Like they're very in on all this commodity trading stuff as well. Like this is a serious business, and the United States supplies a lot of food for the world, including a lot to China. And so anyway, I think that would be, I mean, I kind of see that as I see agricultural purchases as being prioritized over other purchases when it comes to the phase one deal, trade deal with China. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see, energy purchases kind of put to the side and agriculture be prioritized.
Yeah, well,
although the Chinese have never really cared whether their people starve or not, but
ooh, shots fired, Ellen Wald.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, and that's the thing. It's so hard right now to know, like when you read some of these reports about what's going on over there, it's people aren't able to leave their houses potentially, and how they get the food back and forth, and I don't know. I haven't looked in the past couple of days to see what the latest from the from the World Health Organization, what they're saying about the coronavirus, but it felt like it was a frenzy and it kind of escalated. But maybe I've kind of plugged out for a few days, but it feels like it's kind of leveled off now, huh?
Yeah, it does seem like that, but I don't know. Someone posted that like they've now banned all road traffic in Hubei province, which to me is like, I wrote like hashtag climate goals. Like way to ban all like all these countries are like, we're going to ban internal combustion engines in our city by 2030. Like Chinese, man. They did it.
Coronavirus is stealing Greta Thunberg's thunder.
So true. Well, one of the reasons I was looking at this Bloomberg stuff is because I was interested. We talked about this a little later in a different article, but I was a little kind of interested in what now that he's becoming a bigger candidate, what are his policies in terms of like energy and fracking and climate change. And so I looked up and like he's super into and super concerned about the amount of emissions that come from buildings. And I was like, okay, but buildings don't emit anything. It's like the people in the buildings that are doing, like people turn on their devices, people, use a refrigerator, people turn the heat up. Like the buildings themselves are just buildings. Like, so there's a really simple way to reduce the amount of emissions that come from buildings.
Live an Amish lifestyle.
Or get rid of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So
anyway.
Live an Amish lifestyle or get rid of the people. So yeah, like, get rid of the people, you get rid of the people who are doing the emitting. I
gotta, since we pushed the button one too many times, I've got to take a 30-second pause here. First off, it's hard to take Bloomberg seriously when he literally sells data to people in the industry so people can make money trading off of these products. Like, it's really hard for real estate developers, ag, transportation, oil and gas. He made billions doing that, so it's hard to take it seriously. Second off, Ellen, I want to make it formal that I now believe that the Democratic Party is conspiring with the Russians. Hear me out.
Formal.
It's formal.
Democratic collusion.
It's Democratic collusion.
Here first, folks.
Breaking news right here. Mm-hmm. If we were to ban fracking in the U.S., which countries would benefit from that?
Oh, I know. Russia and Saudi Arabia.
Hey! So you've heard it here. I've teased it this morning. It is an official policy of Ryan Ray that the Democrats are colluding with Vladimir Putin. And
Ryan, I hate to break it to you. I really hate to burst your bubble.
Don't burst it.
But I actually said that in September. I wrote an article about it on Forbes.
The dagger.
I said, I linked to it recently. I wrote why Russia and Saudi Arabia secretly want the Democrats to, hold on, I'm loading the article. I'll put it in the show notes, to beat Trump. Why Russia and Saudi Arabia secretly want the Democrats to beat Trump. September 10th, 2019.
Okay, well now
also, I got 51,000 hits on that.
I bet you did. So you're
saying now it's official.
It's the official. No. It's the official stance of the podcast now because we both have come
Okay.
to, so we can. The official stance of the Energy Week podcast is that the Democrats are in collusion with the Russians to ban fracking, and it's just so funny. We were reading some article talking about that this morning about why fracking might impact. Da da da. It's like, really? Every time I turn around and hear about Russia, but there's no one is even thinking about the implications of what that would mean. So obviously, you can't get nothing past Dr. Energy. So I should have known.
Sorry.
So.
Sorry, man.
Gosh, you're just ahead of the curve,
I know.
as always. You're a trendsetter. Okay, let's go to Reuters. They've got an exclusive for us. Qatar delays partnership for natural gas expansion amid price collapse, according to sources. Well, I can tell you, you don't need a source to see the prices collapse. That's pretty. That's pretty evident.
Yeah. Prices are low. Oh, dear. After Qatar thought they'd be doing so much better because they left OPEC and they thought that they would do better, but sorry. Don't they own like half of the which is the LNG plant, one in Louisiana?
Is it the Cheniere one? I thought
Is it the Cheniere one?
Or they have Exxon. I
don't think it's that. Yeah, it's with Exxon. Yeah, which was that? What's the other one? Golden Pass.
Yeah.
Don't they still own like half of Golden Pass?
Well, we talked about it. Remember, folks were kind of concerned when the story broke. Was a year ago on the show. We talked about it, and folks were all wigging out and da da da. And it's like, okay, well now they don't even. Now it's like, well, we kind of messed up that whole. We didn't see the prices going below $2. You know, what really having that foresight. But what does this mean? Because part of what's kind of fueled this country is they were kind of a stronghold in the natural gas space. Is this something to be concerned about if you're on their side of the table?
Yeah, well, I think it is a really disturbing or a bad trend for people who who want to get into exporting natural gas, like the U.S. Saudi Arabia just announced that they want to export natural gas soon. Although I think that's another one of their like ridiculous plans that will not come true for a long time. But Qatar is a major natural gas, liquefied natural gas seller, and they had a lot of expansion plans. And when prices are so low that they are cutting their plans, I mean, that's going to have real effects for the future because they're not building this. So okay, but like in 5 years, natural gas prices might be different. And so if a company is in good shape, you'd think, oh, they should just continue along their plan. Because they're low now, but in 5 years they could be triple, quadruple, quintuple the price. Who knows? You don't know, but that this is a serious. I think that's it. The fact that they're delaying this, I think, really is sending a bad signal for what's in store for gas prices. Unless it's for some like totally other reason, like they've decided they hate the West.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see? When I talk to folks over in Africa, I always kind of push them towards using natural gas for power. And obviously they're getting hit with the quote unquote clean energy, wind, solar, stuff like that, which is fine if it's what they need. But do you think that we might see 3 to 5 years from now, the folks who kind of waited out the natural gas doldrums, if you will, that they're reaping a lot of benefits because they could go to spots like Africa and build power plants in those emerging markets?
Yeah, well, I think that is, and these people who are all like natural gas is so bad. Like I said, I was reading Bloomberg's kind of tiny comments, on energy, and he's like, natural gas is not as clean as we thought it was.
Tiny comments. Is that a shoot? Should we?
Oh shoot!
Should we I mean,
that was totally not
Freudian?
intentional. Yeah. I was just like, you go to his website and you're like, where's the stuff on energy? And it's like part of the climate stuff, which is also really small. And half of it is like, Trump doesn't believe this.
Trump doesn't believe this. Dun, dun, dun.
And it's just, well, it's hard. He hasn't been in any debates. He hasn't done any town halls.
Right.
So all you get to go on is commercials, a website, a few newspaper articles, and like crazy comments that he's made in the past 20 years.
So I'm commissioning, real quick, I've heard he's spending a lot of money, so I'm commissioning Nate right now. Nate, reach out to the Bloomberg campaign.
Okay.
Tell them if they want to sponsor this podcast, we are for sale.
Okay.
However, to be clear, if I come back and read a Bloomberg ad, I think the dude is a complete and total loser, and I would never vote for him in a million years. With that being said, if he does sponsor the show, we will read his ads. But that will be
but for the record, I know pays Instagram influencers $150 per like Instagram post. Like we're our price point is a little higher than that.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I mean, so we're add a few zeros behind it. But I'm just saying, if the terrible...
I will include an Instagram. My Instagram is like totally personal and not about business. But I will throw in a free
Instagram post takes about
me
5 to 10 seconds to
reading
make.
an ad for Mike Bloomberg.
It takes us about an hour to make one of these. Yeah. So we should get at least.
But he's also welcome to come on the podcast and discuss his energy
we'll be nice
policies.
To him. We're nice to all guests.
It will be extremely nice.
I will not call him a moron into his face. So I will be nice to him on the show.
We'll wait till he's off the air.
I've called him one now, so he already knows. So he's fair.
Ryan
but please, we really want to know. We also want to know. I also really want to know. This is like a very technical question, but it's not explained. Okay, so he wants to get rid of like natural gas in buildings. But does he mean new construction is not going to have natural gas hookups? Or do you want to eliminate the natural gas hookups that buildings currently have? I want to know. So Bloomberg campaign, we'd prefer Mike Bloomberg himself.
Yeah, we need the big dog.
And answer this question.
We need the big dog. So let's keep on moving, because speaking of activists, we have an article. I think this is the first time we've talked about this publication. InsideClimateNews.org, Crossing the Line, a scientist's road from neutrality to activism. Now, I've been accused in my day of making fun of scientists because I don't think what they do is actual science. But this piece almost feels like vindication for me, Ellen. It almost feels like it's kind of validated some of the things I've said in the past. So
I'm going to admit that the entire reason that I clicked on this article to read it in the first place is because it said Boston University professor, and I got my PhD at BU. Mm-hmm. So that's really the reason that I clicked on it. I was like, ooh, maybe I know this person. I obviously did not, but my PhD was in history. So I spent a lot of time with historians discussing like religion in the, Puritan colonies and stuff like that. But I don't know. I thought there might be some interesting pictures and stuff in Boston. And also I really wanted to know like what exactly in Boston was he protesting? So, and also like, okay, so like a hunger strike is interesting because like there are a lot of dissidents who like the only thing that a lot of like people who are put in prison and, by like bad authoritarian countries, like I follow the plight of dissidents from Saudi Arabia who are imprisoned, and some of the times they will go on hunger strikes, and also people like in Iran, like I follow the like people who are imprisoned in Iran, and they go on hunger strikes because people feel like they have no control over anything.
Right.
Like when you're in that situation, like you have no control over anything except your own body. And it's, I mean, maybe it's like a similar reason why I guess like people become anorexic or whatever, but it's like the one thing you can control. And so to make a point, like they might go on hunger strike. And also there's, I watched this movie. I watched it a while ago, but it was very disturbing about the suffragettes, or I think in England. And it's like some of them were very like radical and extreme. Like they, basically were terrorists. I mean, they like bombed, that they put bombs in mailboxes and stuff. But a lot of them they would get arrested, and the only thing they would have these hunger strikes, and they would like force feed them and stuff. So I was curious, like this guy is not in jail. Okay, he has like, but so like, what does a hunger strike do for him?
Especially
like, how is that
nice office that's built by oil and gas?
It's actually it is a nice office because he's got a really nice big window.
Nice big
window. My office at BU, there were 3 of us who shared an office with 2 desks, and one of those 3 people was like 6'10". So he basically, his legs took up the whole office, and we had a tiny window that went to an air shaft that was so bad that one day I was in there all day grading papers, and I came out and didn't realize it snowed 5 inches.
Wow.
Like, I had no idea. So while his office is not particularly well decorated or furnished, he has a really nice window. Okay, so his 14-day hunger strike. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, that was different. Okay, so this guy went on a hunger strike, he says, to protest what he says are public health and safety violations related to the construction of a large natural gas compressor station on top of a toxic landfill in Weymouth, which is outside of Boston. Mm-hmm. This is a lot to unpack here. Mm-hmm. We've got, so he doesn't like that. So first of all, let's talk about the fact there's a toxic landfill. Mm-hmm. But they're going to build a natural gas compressor station on top of a landfill that's toxic. Is the landfill itself toxic? Is it filled with toxic materials? Is there a problem? Like, are they leaching into the groundwater? Is it not properly, again, when I took environmental science in high school, we learned about how you store toxic materials, and like you have to like line the pits and everything. And it's like a big process. And like, so is it that it's not properly done, or is it just the fact that like he thinks it's dangerous because the natural gas could like blow up and then you'd have it blow up on top of a toxic landfill? Or is it natural gas that he's protesting? I don't know. Yeah. And I feel like this article didn't answer that. And so Boston University professor Nathan Phillips, maybe he would like to come and talk about his hunger strike. Unless he maybe though, okay, so there's this new thing called like intermittent fasting that people do to lose weight and for their health. He said he lost 22 pounds. Since January 29th. He lived on unsweetened tea.
I like that.
Sea salt and vitamin supplements. And he lost 22 pounds. So, like, maybe is this really an advertisement for a diet?
What's that all liquids diet, like the Beachbody diet or whatever it was? Maybe it's a subliminal thing.
Or maybe he's doing. You know how like they have but those like when they're like they ask people to like do the diet and then like be an influencer for it, but the people don't actually do the diet. They like do a way more restrictive diet.
Right.
Actually, Okay, so what else did you do? So he. So like I wanted to like what it's just interesting because most people who do like a hunger strike are in prison and there's nothing else they can control. Most people would be like, I'll go protest outside of it because that will get me more publicity, or like the people who are working there will see this. But like, so what's why is doing a hunger strike and being a professor, like what's that going to achieve? I really wish
you get a article on InsideClimateNews.org for starters. Huh. Yeah, so if that's your life goal, you've accomplished that. But I do think you're right. The hunger strike thing, and this is part of the problem with the protest, is that if you want to have a discussion again, if you want to have a discussion about transitioning from fossil fuels or oil and gas to renewables, it's a fine discussion. We're happy to have it. But there's very few people who are rational about it. And like I saw a picture the other day where someone had a big empty field, and maybe I can't remember if it was trees or if it was crops. But anyways, so there's the before picture, and the after picture is a bunch of solar panels. It's like, who's complaining about deforestation now? And so it's like, okay, well, so here we are. We're impacting the environment. We're changing the environment, and we go from growing whatever it was on this land to now we've got a bunch of solar panels. That's a change. That's just things that things have changed now, and so you can't deny that. And then there's a whole issue of if that's actually going to be a long-term sustainable solution, right?
Yeah. So I think, and if listeners, this article is in the show notes, and I encourage listeners to click to the article because they have a really great map. Mm-hmm. If you scroll down, that shows the pipeline, shows the natural gas pipelines. And this is a really, really big issue because, okay, so if you look at the map there, it shows the Texas Eastern Transmission, the Algonquin Gas Transmission, and then Maritimes and Northeast Pipeline. And then they show where they want to maybe build this compressor station. Okay, so let's look a little bit about what this actually is. Okay, so this says that community and climate activists have been protesting a compressor station under construction near low-income and minority communities outside Boston. It would be the linchpin in a pipeline system carrying fracked gas to Canada. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. I know it's 2020 and we had a really mild winter and nobody cares and natural gas is super cheap and like nobody's worried about this. But let's go back and remember a couple of years ago when we had like the worst winter ever known to people who can't remember like anything before 5 years ago. Wasn't it? What did they call it?
Oh, is that the polar
bomb
vortex?
cyclone?
Oh,
vortex. Yes, the polar vortex, bomb cyclone, whatever the heck they're calling it these days.
Right.
And it was really, 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 really cold in the Northeast, and there was a lot of snow. And New England had a serious problem because a lot of homes are heated using natural gas. That's what their furnaces are, and they could not get enough natural gas. The utilities were having trouble getting enough natural gas, and so these power plants had to go and use oil. They have like oil stored that they can use if they need to, and they had to go and burn oil and coal, which was way more expensive than natural gas, because even though oil is cheap, it's still more expensive than natural gas, and way worse for the environment. Or then there was this whole thing about how they were like, Boston was like importing natural gas, LNG from Russia. And people were like, what the heck are you doing? United States is making tons of natural gas. The problem was pipelines. They didn't have enough pipeline capacity. And if you look at this map, you can see, you look at all these pipelines through Pennsylvania, okay, all these little pipelines, and then it gets up to Connecticut, and you have like a little one going to Rhode Island and through Massachusetts, and all the way up through Canada, people were having these problems. Like the fact that people refused to okay the building of more natural gas pipelines in the Northeast was affecting Halifax and St. John's and New Brunswick and these places from getting enough natural gas, because we are a community. This is not just about the United States. This is about North America. And these things are all intertwined. And so this was a huge issue. It was causing customers had to pay a lot more in their utilities come September. The following September is when people are going to start paying for it. So people don't remember this because like, oh, it's such a mild winter. They think that like, oh, every winter is going to be this mild, so let's protest building of these new things, when in fact, like, do you really want to burn oil and coal instead of natural gas? Sorry, rant over.
No, I mean, I think you're dead on, and you know, we've got to get the professor on, Nate. I'm charging you with getting the professor on, who said I can turn it off right now, whatever he was, the Oxford guy from a few weeks ago. We've got to get that gentleman on.
Oh yeah, he's like, we can't. What's it called when you divest? We can't divest from these investments, but I can turn off your heat.
Yes. So
he
was given the first ever Energy Week Presidential Medal of Freedom of Honor for Humanity Nobel Peace Prize, and so he is our hero. And so if he wants to come on, you've got to get him on. But no, I think you're right, Ellen. So a couple things. One, it points out that, and this is something that you're starting to see now. This is it's called oh gosh, they've got a word for it, like climate discrimination or something like that. So
oh yeah,
because
climate racism.
Yeah,
it's
climate
real.
Racism. Yeah, and it's like, well, the Environment League of Massachusetts recently gave Let's see here. I got the wrong quote now. Anyways, it's being built in a low-income area. And it's like, well, okay, it's being built in a low-income area because that's where the land's probably the cheapest. It has nothing to do with targeting anyone except for buying cheap land. So on the flip side, if the government came out and said, hey, I tell you what, here's nice land downtown. Let's put your compressor station in downtown where it's really expensive. We'll give you tax credits. They would lose their mind because it's like, well, you can't put that downtown. People may die. So you can't have, it's just like, well, where do you want to put it? Well, I don't want to put them anywhere. It's like, okay, well then they're going to die. So this is the frustration. I think you kind of said it best, but this is just the frustration with these discussions is there's actually no way to do this. And these are the same people who think the current president colluded with the Russians, and they're supporting candidates who are actually policies will literally help the Russians far more than anything the current administration has. So it's like, just, hey guys, just stop for half a second and just listen to Dr. Energy. She will lead you to the promised land. Just
I want to know why he didn't go out to the plant and like chain himself to the fence.
He should have sat outside in the cold.
That's what Greta Thunberg would do.
Oh, she would have rowed herself across the Atlantic in a little pirogue and chained herself there. So just go sit on the sidewalk for 30 days.
She's the real deal. This guy is like, I'm just not going to eat.
I'm not going to eat. He probably was.
I'm not going to eat.
Probably like me. If I lost,
he's probably a. Sorry, what?
I was going to say, if I lost 22 pounds, people are like, really? You did? You lost 20 pounds? Okay. Good for you, I guess.
He's probably like a hero now on the like anorexia blogs.
Oh, This is
like,
depressing.
ooh, climate strike for like anorexia. Sorry, this is so horrible. I'm really horrible, guys.
It's just
please excuse my horribleness today. There's just too much irony in the world. Anyway,
it is. Okay.
Anyway,
let's go to Arabian business. UAE is a nuclear power plant to start operations in near future after reactor license is issued. When fully operational, the 4 reactors will have the capacity to generate 5,600 megawatts of electricity, or around 25% of the UAE's needs. This is exciting news if you're a pro-nuclear guy like we are, or gal. I guess we are. Guy and gal.
Well, this is a huge deal for more than that, because first of all, nuclear power in the Middle East.
Yeah.
This is like basically going to be the first one, and the UAE has wanted to do this for a really long time. There were, there were a lot of delays. But here's what's really interesting is that, well, in my mind, the UAE really went about this the right way. They like every like bit of electricity that they generate from nuclear means like they can either not import natural gas from Qatar, which they do a lot of. They can make money elsewhere. They don't have to burn oil. So I really think like the Middle East, especially these Gulf countries, they need nuclear because they don't have any hydro. I'm sorry. Like they don't. And so we have to acknowledge the fact that those countries that have the ability to produce, from hydroelectricity are privileged. We're privileged to be able to have hydro, and they don't. But the UAE really went about this. They went about it in the right way, like doing it like through negotiations with the U.S. No one thinks that they're making nuclear weapons there, and they hired a consortium led by Korea Electric Power Corporation to do this. And when you compare the way that the Saudis are going about it, it's like you want to bang your head on the table and like, why are you trying to enrich your own uranium, Saudi Arabia? Like, why? Uranium is cheap. Look at how the UAE did it. Just go negotiate with the US. Like Saudi Arabia needs nuclear. It's a fact. Like they need nuclear.
Well,
period.
I think the thing here, Ellen, is once this comes online, every day that it's online is one day closer to the other nations doing this. And that sounds kind of silly, but what I mean is every day it's online and there's no missile strikes, there's no bombs, there's nothing. As long as there's no kind of kerfuffle over there and some ballistic cruise missile, Scud missile lands in the nuclear power plant, every day is a day closer. And so I think you're right, it's a big step, but also if the neighboring countries go, okay, you know what, we want this access because we want to keep our people kind of docile, we want to give them power, let's just do what the UAE did. And this, listen, I ain't saying it's going to bring peace to the Middle East, but it is something that the neighboring nations could look at and go, oh, well, okay, well, that's pretty easy to do. So I think you're right. I think actually the longer it goes and there's no problems, the easier it is for the neighboring nations to go, hey, listen, the UAE did it. We're enemies with those guys. We ain't blowing them up. They're not going to blow us up because, so you almost kind of start this mutually assured destruction with the nuclear power plant kind of mindset, which is, okay, well, if they did it, then we want to do it. And so I think that long term, this is actually going to maybe one of those things you look back, 5, 10, 15 years, and you see a few more power plants scattered around there. It all started with right here.
Go nuclear.
Go nuclear. Team nuclear. Do you think I'm too optimistic, or what do you think?
I think that it's a really good example. And when I was in Abu Dhabi for the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Forum, and they were basically held it was like a mini little celebration of this. I think it was like a 1, 2, 3 deal or something that they signed with the United States in order to get this going. And I just think that look, the whole problem with Iran, and no one believed that they were doing this because they wanted nuclear energy or isotopes for like radiology exams, was because they were enriching uranium, and they were enriching it way beyond what you need for a nuclear power plant. And the truth is that even if you have uranium deposits, like naturally, uranium is so cheap apparently on the market today. Like you don't need to enrich your own uranium. It's way cheaper to just buy already enriched uranium for your power plants. And so it just reeks of this, like, oh, we're better than you, or like it's not going to happen. Like you're never like Saudi Arabia, like just do it the way the UAE did it. Go negotiate and then build the freaking power plant, because it will be so helpful for your country not to have to burn so much natural gas. If you and to diversify your power sources. Why do you want to go through? Is it just for like, for your like machismo? Is that the term?
Yeah.
Not to be like culturally appropriating anything, but like it's not. Is it really worth it for the sake of nationalism and national pride?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's my point. Is that when folks start, when the neighboring nations will get jealous, going, God, they've got it, we don't. And so but before
everyone's always jealous of the Emiratis anyway.
Well, right, but before there was the path to do it wasn't there. Now we know the path to do it, and so you can't be like, oh well, I'm not saying that the path is the best way to do it, but as far as how it should be done, but it's just the path is there now. So if you want to do it, just do what they do, and you can get it. And so it kind of will. Like everyone's like, oh, God, we want that. Okay, well, we're gonna have to go do it this way. Well, okay, go do it that way. And so I think it might open up doors for other nations to kind of humble themselves, and
that would be great.
Yeah, I think it'd be wonderful. So, all right, here we go.
You can do this without having to humble yourself. Like, UAE is still big.
Yeah, right.
No one thinks less of them.
Play the game.
In fact, we think more of them.
I think more of them, exactly. Play the game and just get it done and go on about your business. Okay, Reuters, oil traders rent South Korean storage after virus hits China demand. Wait, I gotta read that again. Oil traders rent South Korean storage after virus hits China demand. I read it again. It's not the best headline, but here's what it says. Top oil traders have rented millions of barrels of crude storage in South Korea this month to hold excess supplies, betting on demand spike after China recovers from the effects of the coronavirus outbreak, trading sources said. Boom, boom.
Yeah. Basically, they're renting storage because of the whole contango thing, which I'm going to confess, I don't really understand. And I've had people explain it to me multiple times, and I still don't really quite get the whole contango idea. Yeah. I know it means that longer dated oil futures are trading at a premium, and that's why you do it. But let's just accept it. It's a contango thing.
It's a contango thing.
So
they're getting containers for contango. That's for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's just interesting. So apparently they're buying 3 month storage, storage in South Korea. Or they're renting it for 3 months, or in 3 month iterations.
So one of the things,
3 or 6 months.
Yeah,
excuse me.
Right. So one of the things that I've often wondered is, we talked about this with kind of the charts and the informant reports, is that you look at the storage, and we kind of evaluate the market based upon the storage that we have now. And there's obviously more storage that's been built over the past few years, but should the market reconsider how it stores oil, and because we have more access to it now, and say, okay, well, we used to price the market off of these kind of metrics, but we can drill more now, so maybe we should build substantially more oil and readjust how we do it. Because if you're saying that you're buying the oil because you think the price is going to spike, then you actually think that we're going to need the oil in 3 to 6 months. So why not just have long-term storage already built? You see what I'm saying? If you
yeah, that would make a lot of sense, except that we're at the same time discussing how oil is now stranded assets. So, clearly you don't want it for that long. It's better to just keep it in the ground. That's in fact, keeping it in the ground is the greatest storage of all time.
You've nailed it. It's the cleanest. It's the less carbon footprint. But I mean, I guess it's a serious question. Is if you're going, hey, well, we're going to need this in 3 to 6 months. Well, because what am I missing here? If you're saying that the demand's low, so the price is low, but in 6 months the price is going to be high because the demand's going to be high and the supply is going to be shortage. Well, doesn't that mean we just need to reshift how much supply we should have in storage? Because
yes, so the 5-year average should be adjusted to be something else, and we should start. Yeah, well, so OPEC. So Khalid Al-Falih, when he was the Saudi energy minister, wanted to do this. He said we need to readjust our metrics. And how we're measuring this. Why are we still basing everything off of the 5-year average? Maybe we need to base it off of the 5-year storage average. Right. Why don't we base it off of some other storage average? So you and Khalid Al-Falih.
Yep. That's my second good idea that I found out someone else had before me. First you, now I'm following. But no, I mean, and I know there's problems. I've heard, I'm not a storage expert, there's problems with storing oil long term. I don't know enough about all that to kind of break it down. But yeah, I have wondered that. But I mean, if I put Ryan's tinfoil hat on, the traders can't make money if the price doesn't spike or drop. So it's not in their interest to do that. And there may be some actual practical reasons. But I read that article. I'm like, well, okay, if you think it's going to change in 3 to 6 months, then why aren't we storing more oil now? Like why are the prices so soft? You're saying in 3 to 6 months the prices are going to spike. That doesn't mean we have a huge surplus. That means we were teetering on the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's a good point.
I just thought that was kind of funny, but anyways. So is that it? Is that the last one? I do have the China refineries up, and real quick, I'll just read this headline from Bloomberg. Chinese refineries go on buying spree as oil too cheap to ignore. This came out Friday. Now you got to couple this with a week before that, on I guess the 7th, Sinopec announced that it was going to lower its February, how much it was going to refine in February. So you had 7 days before, China saying they're going to drop like 12%. I think what it was, Nate. They're going to decrease their refinery throughputs by 12%. And then the following week, they said they're going to buy more oil. What I found interesting was the market really didn't like how much they're going to refine article. Like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But then when they announced they're actually going to buy more oil, it's like, whatever. We're going to kind of slough that off to the side. So, but.
Well, I'll just mention 2 more things because so interestingly, the Kuwaiti oil minister just said that the neutral zone output is going to reach 550,000 barrels per day by year end, and most people think that is a gross overestimate. He's way too optimistic about how much oil the neutral zone will be producing by the end of 2020. So just keep that in mind, and yeah.
So yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I did see after we talked about that some people were saying that that it was too high. What do you think? Do you think that they're off the rocker?
I think that's too high. I think that there are 2 fields, Wafra and I can't remember the name of the other one. I think one of them they can probably get back pretty soon, but I don't think the other one will come back on that much. And I just don't think that the Saudis are that they're going to want to put that much oil on the market. Like why?
And where are we at with Russiagate?
Russia has delayed and delayed and delayed such that now like there's no time to hold another meeting. They're just going to have their March 5th and 6th meeting.
Because I remember the headlines were like, well, hey, Novak's going to come back after they analyze the market in air quotes.
Analyze the market.
But I haven't heard anything in like a week. I don't know if he went to like Bermuda for a vacation or they're still in there on the Excel
Russians
spreadsheets.
don't go to Bermuda. They took their spreadsheets to Siberia to like jump in an ice pool.
Okay, well, Ellen, I think that is going to wrap up this edition. Let's just recap here the things that we delved into. We have officially announced the stance of the Energy Week podcast is that the Russians and the Democratic candidates are conspiring against the United States of America. We expect that to read on the front page of Bloomberg article tomorrow. So Bloomberg, I know you're listening, pick that up. Bloomberg is welcome to come on the show. Me and Alfali are in agreement that we should increase global oil storage capacity, and that Bloomberg should sponsor this podcast for the tune of $50,000 an episode, more or less, even though he is a complete total tool. Anything else? Anything I missed there? I get it all?
I think that's about it.
Okay. Where will you be this week?
And hunger strikes. Climate hunger strikes are the new way to lose weight.
Let me just say this. If you are an environmentalist and you want to go on a strike, the strike that will get my respect is not nude. I don't see you nude, but the bathing suit strike. The bathing suit strike, okay? Go into like winter in the bathing suit for like 10 days straight, or in the heat of Texas, the bathing suit strike outside. Don't go inside. Weeks on end, 22 days. If you go out into Boston when it's 12 below for 3 days, in only a bathing suit, no towel, no shelter, just out there.
Eat only plants that you find yourself.
Huh?
Eat only plants that you find yourself.
No, well, you can go ahead and hunger strike it too. Now, could you accuse me of enticing folks to freeze to death in the wild? Yes, you could accuse me of that, but that's not what I'm getting at. I am just simply saying that would impress me. So, Ellen Wald, where will you be this week?
This week, the usual Forbes, investing.com, but I did want to let our listeners know, and I'll put this in the show notes, that I am going to be speaking on a panel at the Cato Institute called The Iran Crisis and American Energy Security, which is on March 4th. I believe. Yes, is a policy forum March 4th at the Cato Institute at 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. I think anyone can attend. You should just register so that they get enough food for people for lunch. And I'm also going to put the link for people. I think they're going to live stream it. So if you're not going to be in DC that day, you can live stream it. It's going to be a really, really fun discussion. It's a whole panel with a woman, Rosemary Kelnick, who's an assistant professor of political science at Notre Dame, me, Joshua Rovner, who's an associate professor at American University, and a woman named Emma Ashford, who's a research fellow in defense and foreign policy studies at the Cato Institute, will be moderating. So if you're in DC on March 4th, you should come by.
Okay. We will be sure to link to that. And, of course, you can follow Ellen at Energized Economy on Twitter to hear more about what all she has going on through the week. And with that being said, Ellen, we will be back next week. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And, hey, we haven't asked for a rating and review in a while. Why don't you leave us a rating and review?
Yeah.
5 stars and up is what we accept. And so look forward to hearing all of that. And we'll talk to you next week.